I am here to deliver a Dharma talk, focusing on the core essence of the Buddha's teachings, the path to enlightenment and nirvana in this life. This is a teaching that helps us understand the nature of the five aggregates, known as the elements of form and mind. Our bodies and minds are not permanent, they are anatta, which means they do not truly exist as self or belongings. Once one understands this truth clearly, they realize that everything, even this very speech, is not us. The thoughts we have, the emotions we feel, the knowledge we acquire, none of it belongs to us. There is nothing that can be called self. What remains is only emptiness, pure and untainted. We wish to know the truth more deeply. Let us test it in a simple way. Imagine removing the physical body. What remains is only the mind, which is made up of the elements of sound, image, emotion, and perception. Once we remove the physical form, the body, there are no more elements of form. If we then eliminate all emotions, all mental images, and even the sounds we hear, what is left? There is only pure perception, the sense of knowing. If we further remove that perception, and even the memory or cognition of things, what remains? It is only an absolute emptiness, a pure and radiant state. That is the true nature of our mind. Why do I ask you to remove everything? It is to show that we are not the body or mind. We are life itself. If we take the mind out of the body will immediately cease to live. The heart will stop beating. The brain will stop functioning. The lungs will stop breathing, and the ears will stop hearing. The body will decay because life has left it. The mind is the essence of life. It has no form and is empty and pure. The mind does not come and go. It is neither born nor dies. It is beyond darkness and light, beyond good and bad, and beyond all worldly concepts and illusions. In essence, we are liberation itself. We are the pure element, the fundamental essence of Dharma. We are an eternal, undying element. Call it the element of nirvana, call it the element of emptiness, or call it the zero element. This is the essence where time and space do not exist. In this realm, there is no passage of time. Everything exists within this ultimate essence. To understand more clearly, imagine erasing the entire universe. Erase every star, the sun, the galaxies, the black holes, and even the smallest particles of stardust. Erase the darkness and light. What remains is pure emptiness, a clear and pristine state. That is the fundamental element, the origin of all things. The mind is that very origin. It merges with everything in the origin element. There is no time and no distance in this state. Can we imagine this? In this pure emptiness, there is no time and no space. No matter where we are, it is the center. Everywhere is the same. It is impossible to separate or define any location. Everything is unified, interconnected, and indivisible. Therefore, anyone who attains this ultimate Dharma element, such as the Buddha, can know all things. This is because everything exists within this fundamental origin element, and we are that origin element. We are the element of life. This element is pure and empty. We do not need to create it or maintain it. It has always existed eternally. It is called akalko, timeless. This Dharma element is akalko. It is beyond time. It is always manifesting its purity in front of us, right now, at this very moment. This element is the essence of life or the mind. The nature of our mind is that it seeks wisdom and knowledge. It only needs this. It is already a pure element, but it is not aware of its purity. This ignorance is called avidya. The mind does not know that it is pure, nor does it understand the things it encounters. It knows nothing. Therefore, it must learn in order to realize the truth, to know the ultimate reality. What is the truth of all things? It can be understood in two ways: the truth of what is known, the truth of the aggregates of form and mind. These things are governed by the law of Trilaksana, three characteristics. They have the quality of anatta, non-self. All things, whether form or mind, arise from the mind, which is the origin element. All things, both the elements of form and the elements of mind, have this nature. They appear on their own and they dissolve on their own. Nothing needs to be done. This sound appears on its own and dissolves on its own. No matter how much the mind becomes distracted, the sound still arises and fades on its own. Whether we experience certain emotions or not, they arise and dissolve by themselves. Whether we are aware of them or not, whether we understand them or not, they arise and dissolve by their own nature. The elements of mind are simply phenomena that ripple from the pure emptiness of the mind. They are just conditions. The elements of form are simply their own nature as they are. It is important for us to realize that both the elements of form and the elements of mind have this nature of their own, just as they are. They are without a self, without a possessor. They are not us, and they do not belong to anyone. This is the nature of anatta, non-self. They do not truly exist as an independent entity. They arise only because of the mind giving them value. To illustrate the object in front of us, this is not a phone. It only becomes a phone when we assign the label of phone to it. If we were to take this object back 50 years into the past, the people of that time would not recognize it as a phone. They might wonder, what is this box? They wouldn't see it as a phone. We assign meaning. We give labels to things in order to function in the world of concepts. We use these labels to navigate and understand the world in our conventional reality. But we mistakenly believe that we are humans living in this conventional world, and so we believe we must rely on conventional language and objects to communicate and interact within this world. It's like we are playing in a stage play inside a big theater. In this large theater, we must wear a costume and play various roles. As we get more involved in our roles, we start to really believe in them. Some people may come and say, "You're too involved in your role. Do you realize that none of this is real?" But we might respond, "How is it not real? I am this character. I am truly feeling happy or upset. I am really thinking about things, considering the good and bad. So everything is real. How can you say it's not real?" While those with wisdom see us getting caught up, absorbed in the play, wearing the costume and playing the role, they try to remind us that none of this is real. Come out of the theater. Take off your costume. That's not your true self. You're just playing a role. This is a fictional world. Don't get too caught up in it. You are not this character. Step out of the theater and go home. Wise and compassionate teachers may tell us to go home and let go of the roles we are playing. But we may argue, how can this not be real? I'm here. I am truly this character, and I'm playing this role seriously. Every character in this play is playing their role honestly. How can you say it's not real? Right now, I am playing the role of an angry person, so I must truly be angry. If I'm playing a happy role, I must truly feel happy. What's not real about it? Everything in this theater feels real. I'm fully immersed in the play. How can you tell me to stop playing? How can you say I'm too involved? I have to continue in the role because this is a fictional world. I need to play according to the script. Right now, I am deeply suffering, so I have to play the role of a person in suffering. I must be sad, I must be disappointed, I must starve because I'm poor. I must struggle, do everything I can to earn money, to gain wealth, status, praise, and happiness. How is this not real? It is real. The wise teachers with good intentions say, "Do you know you're playing a role? You're wearing a costume. acting out this character. But this isn't who you really are. We are not these characters. The roles we're playing are created for us temporarily. Once we've played our part, we should lay them down. This is not the truth. We can leave the theater now, go home. Our true life is outside of this play, not in this theater. Why starve? Why cry? Why be so upset? This is not real. Do you understand? Why suffer? The truth is that we are beings living in comfort, in a happy family outside of this world. Our real family is waiting for us at home, in a real place, not in this theater of illusion. Why not leave and go home? Why get lost in this theater? This world is a fictional world. The body is just a temporary costume we put on. Our name and identity are things we've created. Our parents are something we've imagined as being ours. Our relatives, our wealth, everything is a label we give to things. We call these possessions ours. We say these are our family members, this is our land, this is our house, this is our money, our reputation, our happiness. We give meaning to everything. But do we realize we are just playing a role in this drama? There is nothing that is truly ours, nothing that is us. As the Buddha taught, the 5 aggregates, form and mind, are anatta, non-self. They are not us, nor are they ours. Why get lost in this illusionary world of the theater? Enough is enough. Let's go home. After hearing this, we may still doubt. How can this not be real? Everything I'm experiencing is real. Everything I'm saying is real. I must keep playing my role to the fullest. This is real. What part of it is not real? I've never had a home. I am this character, and how could I possibly have a home or a family? The character I'm playing right now must live alone, in poverty, in hardship. I must suffer. I must be poor. I must starve. This is the role I chose to play. How can I say it's not real? It is real. I've never had a family. Even if wise teachers come to tell us, we continue to insist on staying in this theatrical world. We persist in maintaining this role, getting deeply involved in the story in this play. Just as the Buddha taught us, oh, beings of the world, the 5 aggregates, form and mind, are non-self. They are not us, nor ours. The elements of form arise because the mind gives them meaning. This sound, for example, is a mental construct. The mind assigns value, saying this is an arm, this is a leg. Do you see? The mind gives meaning to the sound, calling it mother or father. The idea of parents arises from the meanings we assign. Likewise, the concept of a house or a car exists because we assign value to it, calling it our house or our car. Even the idea of not having is something we create by giving it meaning. Having and not having arise from our thinking. These are called bhava, existence, and vibhava, non-existence. The existence of things arises from ignorance, which controls our hearts. When ignorance takes over, it shapes and creates meaning, such as calling something a living being. That's how we say, that is a tree, that is a road, that is our land, that is our property. We assign value to these things, and as a result, they exist in our minds. When we say something doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. All of this arises from the mind giving value, which is a mental element. Therefore, the Buddha taught, from ignorance comes volitional formations, avijja pachaya sankhara. Because the mind is ignorant, it creates tools, mental elements, like sounds, images, feelings, and perceptions. The mind creates these things and then becomes attached, believing that these things are real, that they have their own existence. It's like a man entering a theater, playing a role in a play, and then believing that his character is real. He becomes so absorbed in the play that he forgets his family outside the theatre. He becomes so involved in the drama that he believes he is the character he is playing. He spends years, even a lifetime, immersed in the play, convinced that he is that character. When that play ends, he moves on to another role. He plays another character. And when that role ends, he plays yet another one. Similarly, when this body dies, the mind seeks out a new vessel, a new body, and it continues to create new roles, attaching itself to the belief that it is a particular being. Sometimes we believe we are an aquatic animal, sometimes a land animal, sometimes a bird, sometimes a human. We may think we are rich or poor, with high status or low status, powerful or powerless. We can shape ourselves however we want based on our own thoughts. Do you know that everything is created by our own thinking? Our thoughts are mental elements. The sound I am speaking right now, we constantly think in our minds, speaking to ourselves, even though the mind has no mouth. Yet, it creates this sound. Our mind generates sound as a tool for constructing thoughts, but the mind is ignorant. Yes, we are ignorant. We get confused and believe that this sound is something we are actually saying, even though it's not really a sound. It's just a vibration happening inside us. The Buddha taught us to turn against this flow, to awaken within, so that we can see the truth. We need to see the truth that the mental formations or the vibrations of the mental elements are nothing but suffering. This is what is known as the truth of suffering. We live in the realm of suffering, playing with the truth of suffering, sinking into it, stuck in the cycle of suffering. This is the cycle of formation, the cycle of thoughts that go round and round. We think the same thoughts over and over again, from the moment we wake up until we fall asleep. We keep thinking the same things. Think this exists, think this does not. Think this is not. Think this is me. These are my limbs. Think I am walking. Think I am lying down. Think I am standing. Think I am speaking. Think I am thinking as thoughts arise. Think I am content. Think I am discontent. Think I truly suffer. Think I truly rejoice. Think I am truly knowing as awareness flows. This is the world of fabricated thoughts, what we call the world of mental formations, the world of mental elements, where the mind, filled with ignorance, creates these mental elements, these mental formations. So how do we solve this? How do we address it? Ignorance is the lack of understanding. If we remove the word not, we are left with just knowing. The Buddha taught us to awaken and be aware within. This is the path of satipatthana, the practice of mindfulness. To be mindful within is the one and only path, the direct path to enlightenment and nirvana. As the Buddha said, the path of one way. The one and only way is the path to enlightenment, which is the practice of mindfulness. This means that we must be mindful within and see the nature of these mental formations for what they truly are. This is called seeing the mental formations as anatta, non-self. To see this clearly is called seeing the truth in the truth, which is Dhammanupassana Satipatthana, mindfulness in seeing the true nature of things. When it comes to practicing the Dhamma, no matter what form or method we use, whether it's through the body, the mind, or any other practice, the goal is always to see the truth in the truth, to see the mental formations as non-self. Whether we wear white robes, we do so to see the mental formations as non-self. No matter how well we practice walking meditation, it is for the purpose of seeing the mental formations as non-self. Even if we are skilled in meditation, it is all to see the mental formations as non-self. In truth, the Dhamma is not about what we do with the body. The Dhamma is already present in our minds. It is constantly showing us the truth of non-self right before our eyes, in our hearts, all the time. Can we see that this sound is anatta, non-self. It doesn't belong to anyone. Can we see that this sensation doesn't belong to anyone? This sensation is not really sound. It's just something that is vibrating inside. If we are aware within, we will constantly see this vibration happening, vibrating as words, as sentences. This vibration is continuous. It doesn't belong to anyone. It keeps forming and creating itself. If we observe more within, if we stay aware, and if we listen to the Dhamma often, it will help us realize the truth. The Buddha taught that listening to the Dhamma is one of the 5 ways to reach enlightenment. The highest and most direct method is listening to the Dhamma. The Buddha came to teach the Dhamma so that anyone who listens and understands can immediately attain enlightenment. That's why I explained the Dhamma in detail, focusing only on the essence of the Buddha's teachings. Like the Buddha, I teach the core teachings of the Dhamma, focusing on the path to liberation and the realization of nirvana, showing us how to reverse the current flow of our minds and awaken our awareness. Our minds are composed of ignorance. Because of this ignorance, the mind attaches itself to mental formations and sinks deeper into them, clinging to the truth of suffering. When the mind clings to suffering, it becomes trapped in the cycle of suffering, caught in the loop of mental formations, stuck in a world of thoughts. We think that we are a man named Eka. We believe that we are this person with the name Eka, with a great family name. We believe that we have parents, and these are our relatives, our uncles, aunts, cousins, and family members. We believe this is our house, our land, our car, our possessions. We believe that we are a person, and we believe that we were born into this world based on the sounds we are speaking right now. Since I started speaking, there have been many stories created. If we believe that what I'm saying has a true existence, let me ask you, where exactly is the sound that's being spoken? Do we realize that the sound appears and disappears immediately? Everything arises in the present moment, and then it vanishes into the past. The past is not something that truly exists. It is what has already passed. Can we see that the sound appears now and it immediately disappears, happening constantly? It's like lighting an incense stick. When the flame touches the incense, the fire gradually consumes the incense, leaving only ashes. The flame keeps spreading, and the incense keeps burning. Similarly, the present moment is always moving forward. The present moment is constantly shifting. The only thing left behind in the present is the ashes. As the flame continues to burn the incense, we are left with only the ashes. We are playing with these ashes, believing that the sound we hear is something real. We believe that everything we've said exists, even though everything that has been said has already dissolved and disappeared. The Buddha told us everything has no true, inherent existence. All things are subject to change, transformation, and eventual destruction. Remember, everything that is born to perish. Nothing is born to endure or last. As soon as something is born, it begins to dissolve immediately. However, it arises because this concept of nama dhatu, mental elements, gives it value, and we believe that it exists. Or sometimes nama dhatu or sound gives value to something, and we believe that it doesn't exist, so it ceases to exist. The existence of something arises from our mental concept of it being real, and its non-existence arises from our belief that it doesn't exist. We are trapped in the world of mental formations, the world of namadhatu, mental elements. Let me clarify. We are all mind, a formless, pure element, the original nature, the immortal element. It is so pure and clear, and from this purity, the mind has created namadhatu, such as the sound of my voice right now, the mental images we form, the emotions that arise, and the sensations we experience. These are namadhatu, the vibrations of the mind, called the truth of suffering, dukkha. The Buddha therefore taught us suffering should be known. He taught us to understand the conditioned states of mind. Do you understand? Why must we know this? Because our mind is filled with ignorance, avidya, which is the root of our suffering. Therefore, we must awaken the mind. When the mind awakens and sees citta sankara as anatta, non-self, the mind will no longer rely on citta sankara. It will no longer depend on namadhatu, because the mind realizes that namadhatu is anatta. When the mind sees clearly, ignorance is destroyed. Ignorance is the state of not knowing our true nature. Our mind does not know that it is pure, so it creates tools like namadhatu. But once the mind awakens and sees that it is pure, it no longer depends on namadhatu. Do you understand? It's like we are riding a horse. We live in a house that is already the nirvana element, the pure, true house. However, we happen to see a horse running around our house. We then jump onto the horse's back, and the horse takes us running around the world, making us forget our true home. We start to believe that the horse is our home, and we live on the back of the horse, eating, sleeping, and doing everything there. We forget that the real house, the true home, is the one we already had. It's like we have a house that is the nirvana element, a house made of purity, but we see a car, a mobile home, which is parked around our house. There is no driver, and the car looks nice, so we decide to hop into it. Then we begin to drive this mobile home around the world, believing that we have a new home. We live in this mobile home, eating and living our lives as though it is our true home. We believe this car is our home, and we drive it around the world for a long time until we forget that our true home is right here. The true home is the home of supreme happiness, the home that is our original pure nature, the Dhamma Dhatu. One day we hear news that some people have discovered this true home. So we drive around looking for many teachers because these teachers have declared that they have found the true home. We ask, what is the true home? Here it is, our home. We already have a home, and this car is our home. So where is the true home? Does it really exist? Well, here it is. The true home is the car we're driving. We live in a mobile home designed as a house, and we believe this car is our home. Similarly, we live in this body and believe this body is ours. When this body eventually decays, the mind seeks out a new body and believes that body is ours too. The first body is body A. We live in body A and believe it is ours. When body A decays, the ignorant mind, which resided in namadhatu, mental elements, is dragged to inhabit body B. The mind then creates the illusion of ownership over body B, saying, I am this body. We live in body B and believe we are truly this body. We have a home, a car, a family, and we experience love, hate, likes, and dislikes. We pamper this body because we believe it is ours. When this body ceases to function, the ignorant mind continues to create thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, just as it did before. The mind then drifts to seek out a new body and inhabits body C. We live in body C once again, but this time the body may be imperfect or incomplete. We are born with suffering, crying as soon as we open our eyes to the world. Suffering begins at birth and continues until the last day of our life. We remain stuck in the cycle of repeated suffering, poverty, sadness, or hardship. When this body decays, the ignorant mind still continues to create as namadhatu, mental elements, still envelop it. Namadhatu consists of sound, mental images, emotions, and sensations that we use to envelop ourselves, even though we are truly formless, pure elements, Dhammadhatu, the eternal pure element. But instead, we continue to create Namadhatu to cover ourselves and then drift toward new forms, inhabiting body. Now, we might have developed the habits of a notorious thief because our family might have been full of thieves. We might have inherited a rebellious nature, habitually fighting and stealing. Now, in body D, we have developed the habit of violence, theft, and destruction of everything around us. We become people on the negative side, and we end up living a negative life. We try to escape from the police, avoid people, because we can't get along with anyone in society. We become aggressive, stealing, rebellious, fighting, and harming others and everything around us. We get drunk, act recklessly, travel, spend money carelessly, blaming the lack of good teachers or good parents like others have. So we act out, destroying everything good. When we see someone doing well, we try to destroy them to make ourselves appear bigger or more important. Eventually, our body breaks down and the ignorant mind drifts to find a new vessel, becoming body X. It might be a fish, a land animal, or a bird. We continue to circle in the cycle of ignorance. This is the mind of avijja, ignorance, just like us now, believing we are human. But in reality, our mind is formless, pure, and never truly human. The mind is the origin of the elements. The elements of form and name are mere tools that the mind creates, yet we become attached to these tools. It's like we use a boat to travel to a beautiful island, but never leave the boat. We mistakenly believe that the boat itself is the island, and so we never reach the destination because we remain stuck in the boat thinking it is our home. But the boat is only a vehicle to take us to the island. To reach that island, we must leave the boat behind. This is a simple principle. The mind creates the elements of name, namadhatu, as tools to process and learn from external experiences, to learn about itself and its true nature. The mind creates namadhatu to help shape our understanding of the pure elements. However, once it creates these tools, the mind becomes captivated by them, using them to fabricate stories and attaching to the idea that I am Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and so on. In conclusion, all of you learned individuals, after having studied so much, still carry your knowledge, even though our mind is actually formless and pure in the Dhammadhatu, which does not need the elements of form or name. The Buddhas have reached their pure Dhammadhatu. When the mind realizes the pure Dhammadhatu, it is called arahantship. Those who attain this state have no doubts, no longer seek anything, and no longer attached to the elements of form and name. While still alive, the enlightened being simply uses the elements, eating, speaking, thinking, feeling, and perceiving without attachment. They understand that they are the source of the elements, formless, pure, and the original Dhammadhatu. When you reach this realization and liberation, all beings should let go of form and name completely. These things are not us and not ours. The sound we make when speaking is only a vibration in Namadhatu. It is not us, it is not ours. The mental images, emotions, and perceptions we experience are the same. Why hold on to them? Why seek them? There is nothing that is us, and nothing that can be taken with us. The nature of form and the elements is as it is. This body is made from the elements of this world, and in the end it will break down and return to this world as it originally came. There is nothing in this body that is us or ours. The earth is the earth of this world, and the water is the water of this world. There is nothing that is us or ours. We make the mistake of treating this piece of paper as money, and we struggle to obtain it by any means, competing, fighting, and harming each other, hoping to possess this piece of paper that we've assigned value to, calling it money. Whether it's valued at 100 or 1,000, it is still just an arbitrary construct. We end up becoming slaves to this piece of paper. We are born in ignorance, imprisoned by the elements of name and form, and surrounded by illusions that trick us into struggling and seeking. We cry and suffer from the conflicts and harms we cause. But for what? To remain trapped in the cycle of existence forever. Are we so lost that we seek material possessions only to suffer? Why is it so hard to understand the simple teachings of Dhamma? The 5 aggregates, form and name, are not us or ours. We just need to return form and name to nature. The sound we hear comes from the mind, which is the origin of all elements. It's simply a ripple in the formless, pure element. Who can claim ownership of these ripples? It's like the wind, which comes from the air. The wind has no owner. It rises and then dissipates back into the air. The same is true of sound, mental images, emotions, and perceptions. They are all just natural ripples, returning to the original emptiness and purity of the mind. What is truly us or ours? What are we seeking? Why do we become slaves to the paper elements we call money? Are we born just to be slaves to these things, to bow down to them? It's like a child playing with mud, molding it into shapes and calling them something else. The child makes mud cakes and says, "I sell noodles. I sell soup." But where are the noodles? It's just mud. The child insists, "This is real noodles, come buy them." And we pretend to understand, saying, "Okay, noodles are noodles, soup is soup, candy is candy." We ask how much. The child says, "The noodles are $2. And where do we get the $2? The child points to the yellow leaves and says, "This is money." We nod and say, "All right, here are 2 leaves, no change needed." Then we ask for the noodles. The child replies, "Here they are, noodles." But all we see is mud. This is the world of imagination. We create paper and call it money. We assign value to it, treating it as if it's real, just like the child's mud cakes. We construct traditions, cultures, and laws which trap us in their illusion. Now let's pretend that in our village we must offer respect to the spirit of the earth, Phi Kong Koi. Do we really need to bring innocent children to worship this spirit? Should every child in the village be sacrificed to honor the spirit? Do we need to kill all the animals in the village to offer them to the spirit, making sure to cook them just right, with some blood still on them, because the spirit prefers raw offerings? These are the rituals we have invented and passed down from generation to generation. It's the same as what we do today. We bow to spirits, but there is nothing to bow to. We worship the spirits, believing they exist, even though they are just projections of ignorance. We think, we imagine, we remember, and we become attached to what we believe. We cling to these illusions and become them. The mind, lost in the patterns of tradition, becomes a mind that is bound to these patterns. It revolves in cycles, entangled with one another, and we continue to bow to each other. The mind becomes trapped in this area, unable to move, because it clings to the memories and beliefs of the things it has created. The mind becomes a spirit trapped in that one thing, just like how we suffer when we feel abandoned, drowning in emotions and bound by the idea that we must love only one person. This leads to hatred and eventually to self-destruction, creating a mind that is clouded, haunting others. Who makes these minds stuck in this way? It is because we teach each other to play with form, Rupa Dhatu, and name, Nama Dhatu, to become lost in these things. That is why the Buddha taught us that form and name are not us. I always say that the voice we speak is not us. It does not have an inherent existence. Mental images, emotions, none of these have an inherent self. There is no owner of these things. The sound arises now, and then it fades away. It shows the impermanence, anatta, in the present moment. Can you see the truth in these phenomena? It is right here before our eyes. It is this sound that creates value in everything, telling us we are someone, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, etc. It is this voice that says, I love you the most, or I will destroy you. This voice creates thoughts, which then shape emotions. Every time we think of something, emotions follow immediately. We think that something is what we like. When we see it, we are immediately pleased, and the emotion arises at once. We think that a person belongs to us, and the mind binds and clings to them. But when that person is no longer ours, we immediately feel anger and hatred, because we have given value to something as ours. The truth is, nothing is truly ours. We think a piece of land is ours, but when that land is no longer ours, we become angry and resentful. We think that money is ours, but when it is lost or goes to someone else, we become furious. We cling to the belief that this is our house, our family, our spouse, our children, our parents. The mind becomes attached and bound to these things. This is the root cause of our endless cycle of existence, trapped in the cycle of mental creations, bound by sound, by images, by emotions, and by perceptions. This is avijja paccaya sankhara. The mind, which is composed of ignorance, has created name and form and becomes lost in them, believing them to be real. I always speak about the mind to remind us that form and name are not us. The thoughts we think can turn into diseases, stress, migraines, and when we study Dhamma, we mistakenly believe, I understand everything now. We become attached to the belief that we understand the teachings, and we think that practicing Dhamma means understanding the Four Noble Truths. In reality, everything is just thought and memory. Dhamma is not about thinking. It's about seeing through the thoughts, bringing the mind to wakefulness. This is the essence of the Satipatthana practice, seeing the truth in the truth, seeing the impermanence, anatta, in thoughts and in mental formations. Do you see? The sound we are hearing right now doesn't belong to anyone. It isn't the voice of anyone, nor is there anyone listening to it. It is just something arising and then fading away. Mental images are simply phenomena. Emotions, whether they are pleasure, anger, hatred, aversion, joy, indifference, or even meditative states, whether they arise from form, rupa, or formlessness, arupa, are all just ripples of the mind. The perceptions we are experiencing right now are also ripples of the mind. But behind them is a nature that is empty, clear, pure. This is the origin of both form and name. However, we fail to see this. That's why I am pointing this out. The sound we hear arises from pure elements and dissolves back into them. The mind is the origin of this, and it is empty, clear, and pure. It does not arise or cease. It is neither dark nor light, neither good nor bad. It is the Dhamma element, the life force, shapeless and purest of all. The Buddha is this Dhamma element. The Arahant path is this Dhamma element. Our minds are also this Dhamma element, but we fail to recognize this. That is why the Buddha came to teach us to awaken. Can you see now that name and form are anatta, not self? It's that simple. Just look at the words we speak. Do you see the sound we make is anatta? Some people hear this and say, now I understand. but understanding itself is just a mental formation. Do you see? No one truly grasps the essence of Dhamma practice easily. We must constantly check our minds. Do you know that our mind can tell us everything? It knows everything if we pay close attention. Right now, while you're hearing this sound, who is it that is hearing it? Who is it that knows it's hearing? Is it their own awareness that recognizes the sound? You don't need to practice mindfulness to hear. Do you see? The mind is hearing its own sound. Do you see? It is seeing its own perceptions. We don't need to make a conscious effort to see. It sees on its own. Because our mind is an empty, clear and pure element, it just performs the function of knowing. When an object makes contact with the senses, the mind knows through the eyes immediately. It knows through the ears immediately. It knows through the nose, the tongue, and the body, through the 5 senses. The mind is always aware, but it is an awareness that is silent, without language, and without anyone knowing the underlying nature of the experience. When you hear the sound, ask yourself, who is hearing this sound? Where is the self in all of this? If you observe deeply, the mind may suddenly awaken and realize that everything we've held onto is not us. Who is seeing right now? Let the mind answer. Who is smelling? Let the mind answer. For instance, if we walk and a smell touches us, the mind immediately knows it. If we pay close attention in that moment, the mind realizes that it is recognizing the smell on its own. If nature can perceive nature, then in that instant, when the mind realizes it is recognizing its own perception, the concept of self is shattered. The realization explodes, Buddha nature arises, and the mind breaks free from name and form. We transcend the notion of being a person. In that moment, we understand with our whole heart that this Dhamma element is pure, and we may even burst into tears. We will see that nothing in this world has any inherent existence. The idea of I or me has never truly existed. We have never truly been born into this world. What we once understood as I am Mr. A, I am Mr. B, or I am Mr. D, all of this knowledge will disappear in the moment when the mind breaks free from the notion of being a person. It breaks free from form, from name, from sound, from emotions, from mental images, and from perceptions. It's as if we step back from our body, leaving only the mental formations. We step back from emotions, from images, from sounds, and from all sensory experiences until we reach the ultimate point. At that point, we will only find the element of emptiness, clear, pure, and free. How do we step back? It is by seeing the truth in the truth. We see that it is the mind that is aware of its own scent. When the mind realizes that it is perceiving its own scent, it will immediately ask, where is the self in all of this? When there is no self, the mind will understand through its own nature that there is no true self. Enlightenment is not about us achieving something, but about the mind achieving its own realization, understanding that name and form or mental formations are not self. When the mind truly understands, it breaks free completely. Then it becomes wondrous. The mind shines with clarity. It feels light and open. Tears may flow. It is so light, it feels as if it has escaped the confines of being human. The knowledge we once thought of as being human disappears completely. This freedom makes us feel as though we have merged with everything around us. In that moment, we will hear the sound of sadhu, well done, all around us. Some people may possess powers or supernatural abilities, seeing the minds of others, seeing their past lives, or knowing all truths. But some people may not have such powers at all. They simply know that they no longer need to be born again. Even without supernatural abilities or special powers, they have no doubts about themselves. A person who is enlightened but without powers may have less merit and might not be able to help others as much. They cannot save beings from the cycle of existence, but the goal of Buddhism is to help all sentient beings escape the cycle of birth and death. I myself announced to my father, after all doubts were removed, that it was time for him to rest. I told him from now on I would take over his role, taking responsibility for everything on behalf of the Buddha. I would ensure that not a single sentient being would remain trapped in this cycle. The cycle must end in this era. If no one else does it, I will do it myself. There will be no such thing as unable to do it. This truth will never change, not until the last mind is freed from the cycle of birth and death. In all three realms of existence there will be no being I cannot teach. I will be as beautiful as all the Buddhas have been. May the truth, the pure and complete knowledge, spread far and wide. May the Dhamma, the essence of Buddhahood, which unites all wisdom, extend to every corner of the universe. May it reach all minds across the vast expanse of the cosmic realms, through every particle, every atom. May all beings in the entire universe be aware. From now on, we will guide all of you to attain enlightenment. Please come together and make a vow, uniting our hearts as one, as the Buddha mind, in the core of this knowledge. Let us work together to liberate all beings from the cycle of birth and death. No matter if you are bound by spells, black magic, or any other kind of energy that suppresses you, whether it is through curses, hatred, ignorance, or anything else, may all these things dissolve and disappear. Let go of all thoughts, let go of mental images, let go of emotions, and let go of all forms of perception. Even let go of memory and recognition, for all of these are suffering. All of these are part of the cycle of existence, samsara, and they are causes of birth without end. We will not foolishly cling to them, nor will we continue to suffer or be born again. This will be the last lifetime for all of us. Let us be enlightened by this truth. Let us unite as the Buddha mind and liberate all beings together. For any karma that I, or any being, or any atom, or any element may have ever caused by transgressing against others in the past, I ask for forgiveness from all beings. I ask for forgiveness from all our enemies, past and present. From now on, the truth of the Buddha mind of every soul that vows to work as the Buddha's representative will undo all suffering and release every being from the cycle of samsara. The cycle must end in this era. I ask all our past karmic debts to rejoice in this merit. May this merit reach all beings. I ask that you all release your thoughts, release your mental images, release your emotions, release all perceptions, and release your memories, your anger and hatred. Let go of everything that has bound us for so long, that has caused our birth, suffering, and attachment in this cycle. We will no longer foolishly be born, suffer, or hold on to a self-identity. This will be the last lifetime for all of us. Let us be enlightened in this truth. Let us unite as the Buddha mind and liberate all beings together. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. This is the declaration of truth made for the benefit of my Father, for all the Buddhas, and for all beings to hear. May this knowledge spread to all creatures, helping them to transcend the cycle of samsara. Dhamma is the practice of liberating all beings from their suffering, from the cycle of existence. It is the process of leading empty, pure, and clear minds, minds that have been encased by ignorance, out of ignorance. We have come to guide them, to make them aware. Even we ourselves must be aware of this truth. Dhamma is simple. It is simply the mind becoming lost in the mental formations due to ignorance. Ignorance causes suffering, creating a cycle of birth, suffering, and death, samsara. The practice of Dhamma is therefore about awakening and realizing this. Why awaken? To gain wisdom, to see the truth in truth, to understand the nature of impermanence. We need to see the anatta, not self, in all things, the mental formations, the mind, and the elements of existence. See anatta in all things. The sound that is being spoken is part of dukkha, suffering, part of the mental formations, part of the process of existence. Do not foolishly cling to this sound. Do not foolishly cling to this knowledge or this understanding. Do not foolishly cling to mental images, emotions, or perceptions. All of these are part of the cycle of suffering and impermanence. They are all anatta. When our minds awaken and perceive the nature of anatta, not self, in this realm of existence, and when we realize the truth within the truth, it is called the Dhammanupassana Satipatthana, mindfulness of Dhamma. Anyone who listens to this Dhamma will definitely attain the path and fruition of nirvana, realizing the truth of the Buddha in this lifetime, 100%, without a doubt. For those with wisdom, the realization can come in as little as 7 days, 7 months, or even within a single day. For the less intelligent, it is essential to listen to this Dhamma repeatedly, for listening to the Dhamma is the cause of enlightenment. When the Buddha taught the Dhamma, anyone who heard and understood it could immediately attain enlightenment. Simply by directing one's mind to listen, the wise teacher will only speak of anatta, guiding beings to see that they should not foolishly cling to the namadhatu, elements of name or form, for all of them are anatta. Dhamma is simply the mind not foolishly clinging to the elements of name and form. When the mind is no longer attached to these, it will transcend the namadhatu and return to its original pure state as the dhammadhatu, element of Dhamma, accompanied by the wisdom that realizes we are pure elements. We are the original, pure dhammadhatu, beyond birth and death, beyond darkness and light, beyond good and bad, merit and demerit. We are the source of all things. We simply need to make a vow in the presence of the Buddha. From now on, we will diligently listen to the Dhamma, awaken our minds, and observe our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions as they arise, recognizing them as natural phenomena, not as I or mine. We will not foolishly cling to these mental formations, for they are suffering. They are the cycle of birth and death. They are a continuous process of rebirth. This will be the last lifetime for us. I ask all the Buddhas to bear witness. I will not be born again. This is for those who will become children of the Buddha, who will take the place of the Buddha to complete the teachings, and who will spread this truth so that all may know. We are not here to cling to material possessions in this world, nor to seek wealth, fame, or praise. There is no need to bow to me or recognize me. We are simply here to guide you. We have come to listen to this Dhamma, which has been hidden for so long. This Dhamma is the mind itself, which is the pure Dhammadhatu, a vast and clear emptiness. It is only through ignorance that beings become attached to the Namadhatu, temporary tools they use. Let us realize clearly that the Namadhatu is merely a temporary instrument. Once used, it ends. We now understand that the sound we hear is merely a temporary tool, as are the mental images, emotions, and perceptions. These too are temporary instruments that we have been attached to for long enough. From now on, we will no longer rely on these. We will leave behind all the mental formations and attachments. We will no longer cling to them. This is the ultimate purity of the Dhamma of our minds. Let us be enlightened in this truth. It is time to conclude this teaching. May all of us who have made the firm vow not to be born again, who aim for the path of nirvana, and who take anatta as our refuge, attain this Dhamma quickly, without delay. May everyone attain enlightenment immediately and without exception. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I ask all the Buddhas to bear witness. From this very moment, I will diligently listen to this Dhamma, remain awake within, and observe the arising of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions as natural phenomena, not I nor mine. I will not cling to any of these mental formations. I will not be born again. This will be my last lifetime. Upon realizing the Dhamma, I will teach my children, relatives, and friends to awaken within, to not become attached to thoughts, emotions, or perceptions until their last breath. This is my offering to the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.